Okay, so I am Wildcat Ebony Brown. I am a multidisciplinary artist slash multi-hyphenate individual. I currently reside in Brooklyn, New York. I've been there for quite a while. And I've always been an artist. I grew up in Maryland. I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so I'm a little bit country, I'm a little bit rock and roll. And I'm also an activist, and I'm one of the key collaborators in the Wide Awakes art movement that began in 2020, the contemporary version of the Wide Awakes, which began in 2020.
Meet me at the Chazen. I'm your host, Gianofer Fields. The first question in this series is, what is remancipation? The second is, how do you respond? In 1860, a group of young men in Connecticut banded together with the goal of abolishing slavery and protecting politicians with the power to bring an end to the despicable institution. The movement eventually spread across the Union. They call themselves the Wide Awakes. Wildcat Ebony Brown is a multifaceted artist of the revived and remixed version of the movement. The new mission statement is, "We are an open source network who believe in the evolution of society and the power to radically reimagine the future through creative collaboration." Wildcat's response to the Thomas Ball Emancipation Group sculpture is to transform the pain into love.
I'd say I am an ecofeminist, humanitarian, centered in reawakening love consciousness on the planet. That's pretty much, that's what it's all about. It's getting people to return to love, and that means radical self-love. That means understanding interdependence, understanding the relationship between humans and animals and the planet and the ocean, and just understanding there's a symbiotic relationship between all of us, all the different ecosystems that exist, whether they be in the ocean, in the sky, growing in the rainforest, etc. And I'm really about that divine feminine energy life. I believe that comes through in everything I do. Just coming from, a history and a legacy of strong, beautiful, powerful women, country women, who ran their homes and their families and did what they needed to do. So that type of work ethic and ambition has always been a part of me. And fortunately, I've always known I was an artist, but I really found my voice as an artist in working with the Wide Awakes, because I always knew I had a mission since I was a child. I wanted to make the world better. I didn't really understand the relationship between art, and now I understand how powerful it is, and that's part of what we're doing as artists.
So Wildcat, you made a distinction there. You said the contemporary version of the Wide Awakes. Sort of give me a history of that group, or would you call them an organization? How would you define the Wide Awakes?
Well, I would define the contemporary Wide Awakes as a movement. We describe ourselves as an open source network of creatives and visionaries who aim to make the world a better place through working at the intersection of art and activism. We are inspired by the original Wide Awakes, who were a group of young men, I believe 5, from Connecticut, who were abolitionists. They believed innately that slavery was wrong and that it needed to end, and the only way to make that happen would be to have an anti-slavery president elected. And so they formed in 1860, and they started just, as a group of these kind of, like a motley crew of rough and tumble guys who were very determined, and they provided protection, honestly. They were like a little bit of a gang, kind of, to protect any politicians who were anti-slavery, because they knew how important it was and how they were a minority, so they wanted to make sure that they could deliver their message in peace.
So, Wildcat, talk to me about the capes, because it seems to be a central thing. We've talked about, when you walked in here, that cape, the cape you have on now, the fringe on it is just mesmerizing. So talk to me about this connection you have with the capes and where that comes from.
I'm glad to. So one of the aesthetics that made the original Wide Awake stand out is that they would wear these capes because oftentimes they were escorting politicians at night, and so they would carry these oil torch lamps, oil lamps. I think that old school style, and the wax would drip on their clothes, and so they would wear these capes that would have like oil dripping on them, and so it made them look kind of slick and a little slightly intimidating, but cool enough for people to catch on to it. It was it was like a vibe. It's kind of like the Black Panthers. Sometimes people are political, but there's also like there's a fashion, there's a fashion statement that is an extension of that as well. So the Wide Awakes were known for their capes, and so we decided, all of these incredible artists in our collective, let's bring back the cape, and let's do it in a way that's expressive and unique to each artist's style. And my cape in particular, which is, it's so fun because I learn about myself through my cape sometimes. Like, I didn't realize that I was so inspired and influenced by Native American powwows. So my parents live in Arizona, and my mom used to work on a reservation, the Gila River, Pima Indian reservation. And so I started going to powwows, and I just was mesmerized by all of the colors and the textures and the beading. And then one day it occurred to me that my cape is inspired unconsciously by the powwow fancy dancers. They wear these shawls that move when they would do their traditional dances, and their regalia was so spectacular, and I was taking all of that in and did not even realize it until it just hit me in the middle of the night, and I started crying because I just felt such a connection to I always have felt this strong connection to Native American culture, and then I knew I had to dig deeper within myself as an artist to make sure that I'm serving their communities, particularly the women who oftentimes suffer in silence. And so that became another mission for me as an artist. But the cape, my particular cape, the actual pattern is cut from a vintage cape from a wardrobe that I rescued in 2007 of this fabulous woman who lived in Brooklyn, and her home had been empty or unkept for almost like close to 20 years, and her family was finally like gutting the brownstone, and all of her belongings were just going in the garbage. And I happened to rescue her clothing and bring them back to life. And so I've started recreating pieces of her wardrobe. And so that's why the line I'm developing that started with the cape as the first piece is called Wildcat Angel. So it's a collaboration between myself and this fabulous woman, Angel, who was a concert violinist, but also played jazz. So she developed some style called swing on strings that she was known for. So I love that she's living through me, and I'm continuing her legacy of fabulosity.
And you are serving it so well. The first time I met you was at the Math Consortium, and you told me this. I was like, I'm flying to New York. I have to see this. Because it just is such, I'm not a spiritual person. I'm really not. But there are these moments in my life where it's like, maybe you need to rethink that. Because it seems to me like here is this woman who performs on stage, who is like exuding all this energy, all this creative energy, and all this sound. And then who finds it? Someone who was of that same cloth. Then you literally find garments. So,
yes. it's funny you should bring spirituality into it because I'm a dreamer, right? I have like clairvoyance through my dreams. I'm clairsentient. I'm an empath. I'm all the things that a Libra woman could be. But I had this dream about this woman, Angel, that she was literally rolling in her grave because her clothes were being destroyed. And when I tell you this woman cared for her garments, most of them were still in dry cleaning bags, and she would stuff tissue paper in the sleeves to keep them poofy and to just think that they were going to be in a dumpster. Her spirit was restless, and she found me.
I have told my family, I will haunt this earth if you just throw away the stuff that I love dear. But it really is, it's like, there's part of it, I believe that there's DNA in fabric. I believe that when you touch something, when you touch anything, you leave a trace of you and that DNA behind. Do you feel that? Is there a connection to her? Do you think that on a subconscious level, perhaps she's sort of not puppeteering, because who could control a wildcat or would want to, but do you feel that there's some sort of way that she is still enjoying the garments through you?
Oh, absolutely. She's working through me. She's living through me. And I mean, it's just not a coincidence that, we started this Wide Awakes movement, and their style was centered on capes, and then I had, out of the whole entire collection, one cape that I recreated and I'm repurposing it. It makes complete sense. I think that the ancestors work in mysterious ways and find who can receive them to speak their truths and continue their message and their legacy.
Because the cape is such a central part to the Wide Awakes, is there a ritual? How do you earn a cape?
That is an excellent question. I think you earn it by showing up and just really participating, giving, contributing to the community. It's about showing up. It's not about, of course, the cape looks cool and everybody wants to feel like they're part of something. That's just how we are as human beings. We want to belong to a group. But I do love that, in particular with me, all of the capes the people who have my capes, the first set of capes I made, they were all gifted to people who were giving to the Wide Awakes. Meaning, if they were a musician and they were performing, because you have to keep in mind, in 2020, we created all of these street activations when everything was closed, so everything was pretty much done guerrilla style. We just kind of took over the streets and in the name of, social justice, but bringing radical joy to respond to all of the anxiety and stress and that I mentioned. So yeah, we would call on favors all the time from people in our network, whether they're DJs, whether they're singers, whether they're poets, etc. And so, time and time again, people would show up and volunteer and give themselves for the betterment of everyone, right, in the communities. And so that's how I determined who would have my cape. That was my process. I was like, the people have been showing up tirelessly and giving their all and bringing joy to so many people's lives, deserve a cape. So it was that simple.
So now, when I met you, you were here for the Emancipation event, the Thomas Ball sculpture being reimagined, and you're working with Mass Consortium. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about that relationship and how it formed.
Ooh, it's so exciting. It's even hard to believe that I'm here, because it's just it's such a big deal to me, this project. I've known Sanford Biggers for many years. I knew him before I called myself an artist and was working in New York City as a DJ and in the nightlife and hospitality and all the multi-hyphenate stuff, right? But then for him to recognize me as an artist now and contribute to this project with Mass Consortium was like such a, for me, it touched me, but it was so validating and affirming on so many levels, and I'm just so excited to be a part of it and contribute. And it made sense, because it's focused on the Thomas Ball sculpture, right? Emancipation group where, which we know is problematic and not empowering and all those things, but how it directly correlates to Abraham Lincoln, with the Wide Awakes helping Lincoln get elected. It just made sense that there would be this intersection where we could collaborate. And that was the other thing that I didn't mention about the early Wide Awakes, is that they not only did they help protect politicians, they helped influence Abraham Lincoln to take an anti-slavery stance, and they grew from 5 guys in Connecticut to almost like a nationwide movement. And they had this march. I don't remember the exact day, but it was on October 3rd, where they marched through the streets of New York, starting uptown and taking Broadway all the way downtown. And we recreated that moment in 2020, which was, just thinking about it gives me chills every single time. It was just such an incredible moment of community to see this procession moving through New York City down Broadway. There was buses, there were Ubers, yellow taxis, everybody behind us. As we took over the streets, there were stilt walkers. In the Caribbean community, they call them Moko Jumbies. There were a marching band, there were singers. It was just this beautiful display of artistry and activism that is unforgettable. We didn't know if we were going to be able to make it happen. We did, and now we always celebrate October 3rd, which also happens to be Black Thought from the Roots' birthday, who's part of the Wide Awake. So, it's just, there's a lot of coinky-dinks throughout this whole Wide Awake thing. But yeah, so, and with how it also relates to Mask, Sanford, he was aware of Wide Awakes. He knew what we were doing. And we have this policy, you jump in when you're ready. There's no pressure for people to participate. And you have to figure out how you fit into the movement and how you will contribute. And so when he started creating the quilted capes, it was so beautiful to see Sanford embracing Wide Awakes now. And like, yes, he's one of us now. We got him.
You're like, come to me.
Exactly. And so getting to know everyone at Mask, Mark and Guy, and all of the people on the Mask team and over here at Chazen has just been a beautiful, just coming together, a beautiful mixture and blending of heart and art.
And Wildcat, what I am so enamored with, I think that's a good way to say it, is your ability to see the love and the beauty in these things that are really, really hard to, it's hard for me to look at that sculpture sometimes and think about it. And as we said outside the Sifting and Reckoning exhibit, there's so much pain there. Talk to me about how you find that beauty and that love in that pain. Is it kind of a way for you to, work through it, work with it? But how do you navigate that? How do you move through it? How do I move through it?
I think it's a natural instinct that comes from being a Black woman, honestly. I think it comes from, our people having to adapt and adopt and, turn scraps into soul food, right? And to a whole cuisine. We've done that so many times as a form of survival. Now there's an art form to it. And I don't think I'm unique from any of us who learn how to transcend adversity and and transform it. So I like to see things often through a Buddhist lens when I can. I do practice Nichiren Daishonin Buddhism, and one of the mantras or the expressions is turning poison into medicine, right? Because there's always a lesson to learn. There's always a healing that can occur from a challenge, and sometimes our strongest, most difficult obstacles are actually the hugest blessings to our lives, because they require us to dig deep within ourselves and bring out that Buddha nature, right? Which just means being an enlightened one, right? Having consciousness, having awareness. So I think it just comes from that, and but it's not easy. And one thing that I love that you acknowledge is how as an artist it can be a painful process. I'll tell you. I don't think I've spoken to anybody, maybe Guy and Mark from the Mass Consortium team. I think I told them this on a Zoom, but after my first visit here and seeing the sculpture, I had a nightmare about being in the gallery and the paintings coming alive and trying to attack me. And I thought about it, and what I didn't experience was how their gaze was affecting me. And I think that sometimes, art is powerful. So even something that that might seem sort of like innocent or harmless can actually be causing harm to certain people, right? So I definitely felt like I was under attack by those paintings, and it inspired this whole dream of me coming to life and fighting and having a whole action, moment of fighting my way out of the gallery. And then I thought, maybe that could be an animation, a short film, a story, right? So it's what we do with it, right? Because it's impossible to think that life is always going to be perfect and easy and swell, and no, that's not it. It's what you do with it, right? How do you respond? Which is basically why we're here. This is why Stanford brought all of us together, Mask brought all of us together as artists to respond, because through our lens we can offer a different perspective.
You've been listening to Meet Me at the Chazen. Our guest, Wildcat Ebony Brown, is a multifaceted artist, a wide awake, and a member of the Mass Consortium, responding to the Thomas Ball Emancipation Group sculpture as part of the Remancipation Project at UW-Madison's Chazen Museum of Art. Meet Me at the Chazen is a production of the Chazen Museum of Art on the campus of UW-Madison in Madison, Wisconsin. For more information about the museum, its collections and exhibitions, visit chazen.wisc.edu. I'm your host, Gianofer Fields. Thank you for listening.
Because that's the way we do it around here. Not this whole life that we let do what you will. Make you sit together, sister. Make a good will. When she got home, she found the time to reflect. Take off her mask. Drop to her knees.